Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the very first Brentwood Chamber of Commerce webinar. There's certainly very difficult times we're experiencing at the moment, and a time of change and time of innovation. And hopefully this will be one of the innovations which proves to be very popular and very beneficial to businesses in Brentwood. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Colin Barber. I'm the chairman of Brentwood Chamber of Commerce. And it's my duty this afternoon to talk to you a little bit more about what's happening with the Chamber of Commerce and how we're coping with these difficult times, and how indeed we would like to be able to help you with what we're doing. So as I say, it's very unusual times at the moment, and big setbacks for a lot of us. Sometimes it's a period of opportunity, sometimes it's a period to sit back and reflect, all of those sort of things which we'll be looking at maybe in more detail either this afternoon or over the next few weeks. But I'd just like to give you a rough outline of what we're planning for this afternoon. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about myself and how I fit into the Chamber of Commerce, and indeed my business experience, which is obviously very relevant at the moment. We'll then be talking to you a little bit about the financial aspect of the corona crisis, and what the government are doing, and how that can affect you. Obviously, we're not going to go over all the details of what the government are offering, but maybe helping you with some specific points. I'll then be telling you a little bit about what we've got planned for the Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, things have changed dramatically in the last month or so, and we've had to change the way in which we're operating and what we're offering to our members to ensure that we're helping you as best as possible. And in order to do that, one of the couple of guests who are with me this afternoon, or not with me literally, but live with me on the broadcast, are Sally Sykes, who's going to tell you a little bit more about what we've got in terms of networking, and also Emma Good, who's, as you may know, already offering some training programs for the Chamber of Commerce, and has very swiftly adapted those training programs to be presented to you virtually. And I'm sure many of you who are watching this afternoon have actually enjoyed and found them very beneficial. At the moment, I'm not sure, it's my very first Chamber webinar, as I say, so I'm not sure how much information you've got, but my screen's showing that we've got 25 Chamber members attending the webinar, which I think is a very good turnout, particularly considering the weather. I'm staring out the window at a very bright blue sky, and I hope some of you are taking the opportunity to enjoy the good weather. Anyway, as I said, it might be a good idea for those who don't know me so well to tell you a little bit more about my background and my business experience. It goes back a long way, back into the 1970s. In fact, my very first business was when I was 16 years old. When I left school, I started a window cleaning business, and the idea of it initially was to help get me through college, but that progressed from window cleaning to floor cleaning, and then built up quite a successful business, which I was able to sell on once I moved away to attend college later on. But my main background is actually in marketing and psychology. My degree was studied in business studies with psychology, and initially I worked in the travel business for Thompson Holidays, or what was Thompson Holidays, now of course is known as TUI, and then went on to work freelance in training and management training, which I've been doing now for the past well, we're now sort of 20-25 years or so, working as a freelance trainer, and really working in three ways: working as a business consultant, advising businesses on anything to do with people and communications, running training courses, particularly around the area of communication, understanding people, and also working as a one-to-one business coach. When this crisis first came along, it reminded me very quickly of a situation I was in back in the early 90s at Thompson Holidays, when I was working in marketing there. Some of you may be old enough to remember the first Gulf War, and how that dragged on and had a very major impact on the economy, and obviously particularly on the travel business, because people basically stopped flying during the period of the war, because there was obviously a lot of danger from aeroplanes and everything. And certainly it gave me an opportunity to learn about how to manage adversity, how to deal with adversity. And on reflection afterwards, one of the things we did as a company, we spent a lot of time looking at what we'd learned from the experience, and how we could grow from it and how we could benefit from it. and obviously following on from that, various other significant events, the 9/11 and of course the financial crisis 10 years or so ago. They're all situations which arise, sometimes expected, sometimes unexpected, sometimes affect us in a way different from what we would expect. But potentially, although they will and can do a lot of harm, there are also opportunities for them to give us a chance to innovate and try new ways in which to do business, and indeed also to innovate in our personal life as well. And I'm sure all of you are experiencing that at this very moment. So obviously all of you are watching this afternoon are either in business, or you've got your own business, or your employees in a business, and I'm sure the crisis is affecting you in, I've sort of narrowed it down to maybe 4 different ways. There's probably some of you who have virtually had to stop working, and your business has just sort of collapsed in terms of you're not able to get supplies from your suppliers, or you're not able to find anyone or not able to make contact with your customers, and that will obviously be a devastating situation at the moment. I'd say they're probably the worst affected businesses, but hopefully there is, even for you, light at the end of a tunnel. There may be some of you who where your business is operating, but normally to a certain extent, but it's limited in terms of the impact that you're able to have on your customers and that, and so you're having to adapt a little bit, but broadly speaking you are able to operate and hopefully still make some money during the times. Then there's of course those of you who your business is booming. There's not many businesses, but there are certainly some businesses where they've never been busier than in the crisis. I'm sure Zoom is one of the companies which are really benefiting from the coronavirus crisis. So that's strange times as well, because we sort of assume that everyone's sort of struggling and everyone's really sort of finding it hard to do business. But on the other hand, the ones who are doing business, they probably find it actually hard to cope with the demand for their product or the demand for their service. So as I say, it does affect different people in different ways. But obviously what we want to know most about is, and one of the purposes of this webinar this afternoon, is how it's affecting you and how it can help you. And I'm sure it's affecting you all. I'm myself at the moment working as a consultant, and in some respects, yeah, I could never been busy. I've got a lot of companies asking me for advice and that sort of thing. On the other hand, I also run a small property rental business, which is suffering quite badly at the moment. So sort of swings and roundabouts. On a personal note, I found out yesterday a good friend of mine, a girl I used to work with, a lady I used to work with, she died yesterday from the coronavirus. And the sad thing was she'd actually been battling with multiple sclerosis for 25 years. And whilst it gradually was eating away at her, she was still leading a relatively good life. But the coronavirus took her. So that was very sad news for me personally. And I'm sure some of you have also been affected at a personal level as well. And I'll take this opportunity to obviously wish you all very, very good health, and hope that it's not affecting you, any of you personally at the moment. So talking about the Chamber's role during this period, we are, or we would like to be perceived as being, the voice of business in Brentwood. And obviously we've been going, I must say obviously you may not know this, but actually the Chamber of Commerce has been in existence for around about 100 years. So it's a very well established and very well recognised organisation, both locally in Brentwood, but also well, actually nationally, but also internationally as well. The Chambers of Commerce exist all over the world, and they are an excellent way of communicating between the members and the local authorities or anyone else who we need to apply pressure to. So our role in this period is, as I say, in some ways our role is the same as it's always been. It's been for us to be the voice of business in Brentwood and to act as a conduit between you and the local authorities, for example, in this situation. And we'd very much like to hear from you. What I would like to know is what questions you've got which you would like to ask me either directly this afternoon, or ones which you'd like us to pass on to maybe to the local authority, maybe to our MP, maybe to bank managers, whatever. So you've got the chat facility on your screen. You've also got a Q&A facility. So if any of you have got a question which you'd like to put to us, then please do feel free to type away, and we will endeavour to either answer your questions this afternoon, or if that's not possible, then we will go away and get the relevant answers for you. Just a typical example, we had someone contacted us right at the beginning of the crisis. I think it was like the first Monday when things had really been beginning to take off, and they contacted us with a question about parking in Brentwood, where obviously the questions are about parking in the town centre, that sort of thing, but they had an issue about residence parking, because obviously at the moment so many people are working from home during the day when normally people will be taking their cars to work. They're all parking in the residential areas outside their homes. This was an example where the residential parking was limited from, you couldn't park there from 10 till 11 AM to stop people parking there all day. And obviously someone who's living there and in business didn't want to have to go out and move their car every day from 10 till 11. So they raised a question with us if there's anything we could do about it. We passed the question on to Brentwood Borough Council, who in turn forwarded it to the local parking partnership, and literally within, I think it was 2 days, we got a response saying yes, no problem, we are suspending all restrictions on residential parking in those sorts of situations. So that's an example of just a little point which helped not only the person who raised the question with us, it probably helped several other members as well, and made it a little bit easier for you parking at home during this time when a lot of you are working from home. One of the things I've noticed as a sort of business consultant is how much the bureaucracy, I wouldn't say bureaucracy shrunk, but the bureaucracy doesn't seem to be such an obstacle. Decisions seem to be made a lot quicker in times of crisis, and which is one of the great things about it, because after the crisis, when we hopefully do get back to normal, people will start saying, well, why did it take us 6 months to make that decision when during the coronavirus we were able to do this in 1 week? You know, we can build a hospital in the Excel in the space of about 10 days, which is a phenomenal experience. But that would then imply, why can't we do that in normal time? So obviously that's a great example of how we can actually learn from it and think maybe we are a little bit slow sometimes in innovating and change. And so that's one of the benefits of going through these difficult times. As I mentioned, feel free to send any questions through to us whilst I'm talking, and in a minute when either Sally or Emma are talking to you, I'll have a quick flick through your questions, see if there's any which we can share with everyone else and to hopefully give you the answers to this afternoon. Obviously the moment, one of the big questions for a lot of you is money. Everything comes down to well, the two issues, obviously money and health, but the area in terms of business is money and how you can get through the crisis as a business. Now, I don't want to go into all the details of what the government have offered and what they haven't offered. There are a lot of links available. Julie and our social media man has been promoting a lot of links to various PDF documents which the council have issued, and various web links and all that sort of thing. So there is a lot of information out there. I know probably many of you are thinking potentially there's too much information out there, and that is part of the problem. But hopefully you are gradually managing to find your way through all the bureaucracy. But to highlight for me some of the three issues which have sort of come up regularly for me, and do correct me if I'm wrong, or do tell me if there's something else I've missed out on. But the three issues are, first of all, those of you who are sort of in practical terms maybe self-employed, but you've set up a company of which you are the director, the sole director potentially, and you are actually paying yourself by dividend rather than PAYE. Consequently, you don't have any records with HMRC in terms of PAYE in order to be able to claim the money. So that's one of the areas which we are aware of, and indeed the government are aware of as well. The other one is those of you who are, particularly those who are self-employed, who are new in business, maybe literally start up business this year or maybe even last year, and don't really have a track record to show in terms of proving to the government how much you would have earned if had your business been going through normal circumstances at this time. And the third one, which we've heard quite a lot about, is people or businesses who are renting or in effect subletting an office or a workspace from a larger organisation, and as a subletter you're not actually paying any rates, so consequently you're not getting any benefit from the rate relief, although your rent may well include rates. So those are three areas which certainly I'm aware of, certainly I know the local authority are aware of, and obviously through that the government are aware of as well. But what we've been asked to do specifically by, well, indirectly by Alex Burkhardt, our MP, and also by Chris, the lead, Chris Lossack from Brentwood Borough Council, is to try and get some first-hand examples from you of how you're actually affected by not just the 3 points which I've mentioned, but any other ways in which you feel the benefits which the government are offering aren't actually coming through to you, or there's any restriction in terms of how they're coming through to you. So if you've got any real life examples you could send to us either on the Q&A now, or if you'd like to send an email to info@brentwoodchamber.co.uk, then that makes it great for us, because then we can pass on real life examples to Alex Burkhart, and then he can obviously use them in terms of when they're deciding, when he's talking to other MPs about how they're going to deal with these sort of gaps in the benefit system. And I guess inevitably there will be gaps. Obviously it's not possible to particularly in such a short space of time, to devise a system which gives benefits to everyone, but obviously the aim of the government is to try and help as many people or as many businesses as possible. And our role, again, as a chamber, is to try and assist you as much as possible in accessing the various grants and loans which are available. Incidentally, I've just thought of a fourth one, which actually is coming up quite a lot at the moment, is the business loans from the banks, about the fact that the banks are struggling to cope with the number of people asking for these interim business loans, or in certain cases people are being turned down for them. So that is a fourth area which we are becoming more aware of, certainly in the last few days. So again, if you've got any examples of that to share with us, it would be great to hear from you. So from a practical point of view, this is my sort of psychologist hat on. I would often say to people in situations like this, whenever someone's facing a difficult situation, you can't do anything about the situation. It's happened. There is a coronavirus spreading throughout the country. That's just one of those things. It's a fact. But what you can do a lot about, and what you can choose, is your attitude and your response to the situation. Now, it may sound quite simplistic, but that can have a significant effect on how you, and indeed how your business and indeed your family, come through this situation. So just a reminder that you can actually choose your attitude and choose how you respond to the situation. And that will also have a profound effect on how your business comes through after the crisis, when we actually move into what may be called recovery mode. We won't talk about that too much at the moment, because that's obviously something that we will be talking about as we go down the line, in terms of how you benefit from the recovery after the major crisis point has passed. So just to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in terms of how we aim to help you as a chamber. Well, first of all, perhaps to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing up till now, because obviously it's a couple of weeks since the main crisis hit us. We've been doing a lot of talking behind the scenes. We've been talking very frequently to representatives from the local council, Brentwood Borough Council, about how we can help businesses and how they can help businesses. They are being very proactive, and including having a weekly open session with us, where we talk through various issues which are affecting the businesses in Brentwood. And I think it's certainly clear to me that as you would expect, the council are obviously very keen to help businesses as much as possible, and do whatever they can within the limitations imposed by the government, but do whatever they can to help businesses. And I know that they're working very, very long hours to try and to get the money to the businesses, which has been sort of filtered down through central government. So what we're going to talk about, what we're planning for you after this is, we didn't want to sort of rush in and just offer you a whole lot of seminars straight away. We wanted to give it some thought to it. And in effect, what we're doing is we're looking at 4 different areas in which to help you. First of all is to continue to be the voice of Brentwood business community, and obviously that depends on you telling us what's happening to your business. As I'm looking now, I can just see in the bottom of my screen I've got 6 questions come from you, so hopefully we'll be able to look at those in a few minutes' time. So that's one thing we will continue to do for you, to lobby on your behalf, and obviously to be your spokesperson and to share your views with the people that matter. The next one is obviously one of the key areas which we've grown and expanded a lot in the last year or two, and certainly even in the last few months, is networking. I'm sure many of you attended our successful networking events. The business breakfast was the sort of pioneer event, and that then led on to other events, the meet the members, which was very successfully launched last year. And literally only just in the last couple of months, we started our lunchtime networking event as well. We are hoping obviously to keep them all going and to relaunch them very soon. But in the meantime, obviously the way to go ahead is virtual networking. And many of you will know Sally Sykes. She's our sort of networking guru. She's been doing a lot of networking in the past, and certainly in the last couple of weeks, one of the things Sally's been doing is looking at all the various options available in terms of virtual networking. She's been busily attending lots of networking events and deciding which platforms to use, which times of day work best, which sort of format to use. Do you want to try and replicate a business breakfast, or do you want to try and create something new, something completely different? Sally, unfortunately, her main business, making cupcakes, has got a little bit of a drop in customers at the moment. So again, an opportunity for her to look at various ways of networking. We've then got our sort of training and development program, which we were beginning to expand anyway. And certainly Emma Good from 24 Fingers, as you probably know, has been running various courses in Brentwood, where you've been able to come along and attend. Obviously that's changed, but Emma very quickly adapted and changed the courses so that they could be attended virtually. And Emma is with us this afternoon, so she'll be giving you a quick update very shortly about what she's got planned and how she's adapted to the changing business environment. And we also will be expanding the training program which we're offering as well. As I mentioned earlier, some of you will probably be, if you're lucky, you've never been busy and you're working really hard, and if that's the case, then you're probably not watching this webinar this afternoon. So but those who are watching it, maybe you are one of the people who's suffering a little bit from the business downturn, and it might be that through no fault of your own you literally can't work at the moment. And in that case, it's obviously an excellent opportunity for you to review your toolkit and maybe enhance the amount of the skills you've got, perhaps do a little bit of extra training just to make yourself a little bit more aware of what other skills and qualities you could learn during this period of time. So that's one of the reasons why we are looking to expand our training program. And there won't just be ones, the training won't just be focused on the corona crisis. It will actually be thinking about the fact that this is an opportunity for you to increase, as I say, increase your training and your knowledge around the world of business. So we've got various people we're talking to, including myself, about what we can present to you to brighten up your day during the time you're stuck at home. Also, some of you may be familiar with Brentwood Business Partnership, which is originated as a partnership with the local retailers in the High Street and the Brentwood Borough Council. And Brentwood Business Partnership primarily exists in order to improve the environment in the High Street. And so that doesn't just mean supporting the shops, it actually means improving the ambience in the High Street where people walk and all that sort of thing. And they work closely with Brentwood Borough Council and indeed closely with us, the Chamber of Commerce. And we have in the past run a few joint events, and so we decided it would be appropriate that if we were to run some joint webinars as well. So that's another area which we're going to be introducing. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the first one of those in a minute. I just need to check whether Sally's actually with us, because she's not coming up on my screen, so she might be there as an attendee rather than a Sally, if you're there, can you just sort of virtually wave your hand?
I think she's just going to come in and out. She just left for 2 seconds. She's going to come back in, Colin. Right.
Okay. Perfect. I like that. I think the obvious thing to do then is to say, let me introduce Emma Good to you from 24 Fingers, who can tell you a little bit more about what she's been doing and what she's going to be doing for you over the next few weeks. Over to you, Emma.
Thanks, Colin. So good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody is well and staying safe. Thanks to Chamber allowing us to run social media training courses. We've been putting on monthly events face-to-face at Create Business Hub. When everything went everything happened, we decided really quickly to change those to an online model and change them to weekly rather than monthly. Business owners are telling us that they're really struggling to get seen and to get visible, especially if they've got physical retail stores. So we recognise it's important to share information that could help them right here, right now. So we've changed to a Zoom model. We can take up to 100 people on each training workshop. And the reason why I was a bit late was we had Facebook ads training today with some chamber members, which went really well. We've managed to retain the Q&A aspect of our training, so there's lots of times for individual business owners to ask questions specifically about their business. They run for 2 hours, so we cover quite a lot of kind of in-depth best practice guidelines across social. We have LinkedIn coming up next week, followed by email marketing. So really, we're helping business owners plan ahead, even if they can't do their normal day-to-day job, but they can be planning their activity, they can be looking at their marketing, they can be reviewing what went well, what didn't go so well, so that when we do come out of this, they're in a really good position with their marketing funnels sorted, with their social medias working, so that when people are ready to come visit them again, they're in prime position. So it's been a real pleasure and privilege in order to be able to help Brentwood Chamber members currently and help them get through this and help them feel that they are still being visible and getting seen by their customers, and even getting new customers throughout this.
Great, thanks Emma, that all sounds good. So all the details are on our website, and if you are interested in any of these courses, then do sign up, and I'm sure you'll find it a very useful way of spending your time during this period. I believe we've got Sally back with us now, so Sally, can I just, you with us, Sally? I can see you, Sally.
Sorry, we have team problems.
Sally, are you in a position to tell us a little bit about what you've got planned for us in terms of networking?
I am. I think Colin, you need to move yourself versus Emma. I'm not sure. Hi everyone. Next week we start networking, but we're doing on Wednesday. Some that are on here. I'm going to let you know 2 times. Maybe you could just put in the what time is you.
Sally, I'm going to interrupt you there because we can't hear you. I don't know whether it's to do with your signal or you're very, very distorted. I don't know if it's to do with your Wi-Fi signal or what. But I'll come back to you in a few minutes just to see if we have been able to get a better signal for you. I don't know if you could perhaps run a test on your mic and your audio on the Zoom screen and see how that works for you. But at the moment we can't really hear you. So we do want to hear from you, and hopefully we'll hear from you very soon. So let me just tell you a little bit more about the partnership which we have with Brentwood Borough Council and Brentwood Business Partnership for a series of webinars. We're not sure exactly how frequent they're going to be, but certainly at the very least once a week, maybe twice a week, depending on the amount of interest shown in these webinars. The first one is actually scheduled for next Thursday, and that's with someone called Chris Bushell, who I've known for several years. I'm just hunting around trying to find my little description. Yeah, Chris Bushell runs an organisation called Smart Support. I've probably known him for about 10 years. He's got a wealth of experience in the business world, and very, very good at helping people to analyse the issues in their business. But the key area which Chris has picked up on is to do with cash flow and how we manage cash flow during the current crisis. Because sometimes, in actual fact, not just in terms of crisis, but generally speaking, the cause of most business failures is actually not necessarily that they're not profitable, but they have a cash flow crisis and they run out of cash, even though they may actually on paper be making a profit. So Chris is going to talk to you and give you some advice about how to manage your cash flow crisis during the current crisis. And the schedule for that is next Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. It'll probably run, it's not a long seminar, probably about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. We'll be distributing the details, both Julian will be sending out an email with the information, And we'll also be plugging it on social media, LinkedIn and Facebook group, whatever. So do look out for that. The title of the seminar is, or webinar I should say, is Effective Crisis Management. And next Thursday, no charge, obviously. And the only thing that we do ask is you do register in advance, so that well, for one reason, there's a limited number of people, but also so that we know how many people to expect. And obviously in these times, it's very, very important for you to tell us, you know, what you think of these seminars, whether they're helpful, whether they could be changed in any way. And also, obviously, if there's any other subjects which you particularly would like to see covered during these seminars. I'm just going to check out with Sally, see how her microphone is doing. How are you doing, Sally? Can we hear you now? Sally?
You must. Emma, I'm yourself.
No, sorry, Sally, we can't hear you. I don't know what it is. We can see you perfectly. Well, I can see you perfectly, but obviously there's some problem with your microphone or reception. Emma, can I just check? Are you experiencing the same problem?
I can hear you okay, Colin.
But you can't hear Sally, or?
No, it's bandwidth, I think.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, we'll maybe come back to you, Sally, one more time if we can. In the meantime, let me have, well, just before we move on to the questions and answers, I've got no idea what these questions are, but let's have a look in a minute. I just wanted to sort of wrap up my side of things by just saying to you that sort of stressing the point I made at the beginning, actually, really, about how these times are an excellent opportunity for us to innovate and look for new ideas. There's a quote which I won't attribute it to anyone because I've seen it attributed to so many different people, but it's something along the lines of, every adversity and every failure carries within it the seed of opportunity and growth. And I think that's a very important thing to bear in mind, that these are difficult times for all of us. But I'm sure we'll all look back and think, actually, if it hadn't been for the coronavirus, I wouldn't have done this, or I wouldn't have done that. Or I wouldn't have learned this. So it's very important to focus on the positive side and what we're actually gaining from it, and what the benefits are in terms of you know, how we change the way we do business, and how indeed how we change our overall approach to work. So there is a seed of opportunity, even if you are one of those people whose business seems like it's just sort of completely come to a complete standstill. You know, do still take the opportunity to think, okay, well, worst comes to worst, if my business doesn't come through, what have I learned from it? What can I do differently? I know at the moment, probably most of you are still sort of in the, well, you probably got over the initial shock of it, but still in the sort of coming to terms of it stage, maybe firefighting and, you know, looking how to deal with the immediate future. But there will come a time, hopefully in a not too distant future, when you'll start to think about, how can we actually move on to the next stage? How do we need to prepare for the upturn when it comes? Now, I've been watching the London Stock Exchange this morning, and indeed yesterday, and certainly in terms of what's happened with the stock exchange in the last 2 days, I think last Friday was a sort of low point, and it's certainly begun to pick up. And that's always an indicator that people think that if things are not necessarily moving forward right now, but they will move forward in the future. And you do need to think about how your business will benefit from the upturn when it happens. But more importantly, also to bear in mind that when the upturn does happen, your customers may have changed. You know, we're all going to change in some way or other as a result of this, and your customers may have changed their buying habits. They may have changed their preference. They may have changed that their financial situation may have changed. So whilst you may not be able to necessarily second guess how they will have changed, it's important to be aware there will be some change, but many changes in terms of how the world of business operates over the next few months. I actually work, as I say, as a business coach and consultant, and one of the areas which I often work in is managing change, and how to manage change, and how to teach a team to embrace change. And one of the things I always emphasize is until you step out of your comfort zone, then you cannot really embrace change. And actually stepping out of your comfort zone is the one time when you have to embrace change, and if you want to just step back into it. And I think that's what's happening to all of us at the moment. We certainly haven't chosen to step out of our comfort zone, but most of us are out of our comfort zone at the moment. And obviously that's a chance for you to actually embrace the change, rather than just going back to the old ways. Think about what you want to retain from the past, which is good, but then also think about what new ways you want to adapt in terms of how you run your business. So I'd just like to finish with maybe a couple of questions to ask yourself. They're very simple questions actually, but very, very useful and very beneficial. In the last 2 weeks, what have you learned about yourself? And what have you learned about your business? So 2 very simple questions, but I'm sure you'll find, particularly if you dig deep for the answers, that you will find the answers very useful and beneficial. So as I say, we're keen to hear from you what you've got to say to us. Please bear with me because I've not seen these questions yet. I've just got a little panel at the bottom of my screen which says I've got 8 questions. So I'm going to just quickly bring them up on my screen and share some of them with you and see if they're ones which I can actually answer, or which ones we might need to pass on to someone else. So I'm going to sort of look at them in the order in which they were fired at me. I didn't actually at the beginning, I didn't ask you whether you wish to remain anonymous, so I won't say any names, but if someone asks a question which you feel you could possibly answer, then it might be an idea if you could just ping us an email or ping us a message, and then we can pass the answer on to the relevant person. This one says, hi Colin, thanks for organising the webinar. A number of businesses we've spoken to have been contacted by HMRC regarding financial support for partnerships. We are yet to hear. Are there any accountants in the group who can shed a little more light on when we should expect to hear? Thank you. So that's specifically about partnerships, which is obviously another form of business entity. If anyone's got any news on partnerships and how HMRC are supporting you, then do let us know, then we can obviously pass that information on. In fact, what we'll probably do, I'm not sure how yet, but I'm sure the wizards in IT can help us with that. We'll probably maybe publish these questions, as I say, anonymously, the ones which we feel are helpful, and then we'll get the answers together with them and publish those so everyone can see what the answers turned out to be. Next one, are you going to have a new section of website to publicise the information in summary and detailed form, even if it is a link to either Brentwood Council or central government website? Well, there's a couple of points I would mention on that. First of all, unfortunately, we are in a position where our website is a little bit, it's not antiquated, actually, it's only about 2-3 years old, but it's been sort of tacked on and put together in various different ways. So it's not the most flexible of websites, shall we say, and we are looking actually to renew the website so that it is a lot more flexible in terms of what we do. So that's one issue. It does take a bit of time for us to set up a new page and everything. Also, just to stress, which I always try and do, everyone working for the Chamber of Commerce does this on a voluntary basis. So it may be sort of someone's doing this while they're also trying to run their own business as well. So sometimes things don't happen as fast as they do with normal businesses. But also this particular person asked, even if it is a link to either Brentwood Borough Council or central government website. Well, certainly we are promoting as many links as fast as we get links from Brentwood Council or information from Brentwood Council. We are pushing it out on social media with links on Facebook and on LinkedIn as well. So, but it's certainly I would recommend all of you who are looking for financial questions to be answered, that then you do keep an eye on the information which Brentwood Borough Council are distributing, because it is very useful and beneficial. This isn't so much a question, but this person said, we sublet, we've been able to negotiate a rent break, which is helping, and we recommend this to other members. So, practical point of view, talk to your landlords. I'm a landlord myself, so I know the situation. Several of my tenants contacted me right at the beginning and said, what can you do for us? We're struggling. They weren't necessarily asking for a rent reduction, but they were just saying that they were worried they might not be able to pay their rent. So as I would sounds simple, but the first thing to do is whoever your landlord is, to try and talk to your landlord. I know in some circumstances that's easier than others, but see what you can negotiate. And obviously, if it's a rent break, then that doesn't necessarily affect the landlord so much in the long run, because hopefully they will still get their rent sooner or later. So that's something else, a tip worth bearing in mind. Next one. My question is, I just wondered if there is anyone else that has applied for the retail and hospitality grant, and if they have had any info from the council yet. Well, this is actually happening as we speak. The council literally are at the moment distributing grants. I got an email, I think it was last night, telling me how much money, I can't remember the exact figure, how much money had been distributed just in the last 2 or 3 days by Brentwood Borough Council. As far as I'm aware, it's actually the IT side of it to do with is actually handled in Basildon. I think it's jointly done between Basildon and Brentwood, but the IT people are certainly working very hard to get the money distributed. So if you have had a retail hospitality grant, then obviously do let us know and we can publicise that information. If you haven't had one yet, then fingers crossed, hopefully that will come through shortly. Next one, as a local charity, would you ask the BBC, and I think I saw a note there saying that's actually Brentwood Borough Council rather than the British Broadcasting Corporation, if they are extending any funding support to local charities? I was sent a letter asking me to apply for the small business grant. Have any other charities been successful with this? So certainly charities. I heard an advert on the radio last night for St Francis Hospice saying how much they were struggling at the moment, because obviously their fundraising has been severely inhibited, as has all the charities fundraising. So if you are a charity, perhaps let us know if you've been able to get any support, financial support in any way, because then we can also pass it on to our other charity members. Oh, we've got a plug for a book here actually, which is actually a very good book, I must agree. Very simple book, doesn't take long to read, but great message in it. I'll read the comment out. It says, a great read right now is Who Moved My Cheese? Only 90 minutes to listen to it on Audible. Great to help have a growth change mindset, and certainly the whole premise behind the book Who Moved My Cheese is understanding change. And I think if I remember right, there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's four mice involved, and 2 of them adapt to change and 2 of them don't. But certainly it's a great little book, and as it says, 90 minutes to listen on Audible, or it's available as a regular book as well. And again, obviously it's another great way to spend your time at this period, catching up on your reading. Again, from the same person that asked about the charities, could we see if other charities would like to have a dedicated webinar session? Well, that may be something that we can certainly think about doing within our Brentwood Borough Council Brentwood Business Partnership webinars. What I would say from that is, if you would like us to run a webinar for local charities, if you could just give us a guidance on exactly what you would like to be covered on it, so we can get some idea in terms of what subjects we cover, and in order to publicise it in advance. And the next one, and this is the last one at the moment, but if any of you have got any more questions, feel free to fire them in. Are you going to run video conference meetings for attendees to network with each other, as several ESSEC networking groups are doing? Well, certainly, as I did mention earlier on, that's something which Sally Sykes, who's our events organiser, is working on, and she certainly has plans to start them next week. And that's probably quite an appropriate time for me to try just once more to see if we can get Sally. She's not on my screen, so probably she's not around, but if she is, then she can tell us a little bit more. If not, then I can fill in and tell you a little bit more about what Sally's got planned. Are you there, Sally? No. Okay. So what we've got planned for networking, as I said, one of the things we had to look at was, do we just sort of try and replicate the existing model? So, for example, do we do a business breakfast and ask you all to bring your own breakfast, or you know, do we have a meet the members whereby the member hosts a webinar, or do we try and do something completely different? And Sally sort of, at the moment, she's decided to sort of go midway between the two and offer a virtual networking networking webinar, I guess is the right word for it. I'm going to learn all these new phrases. And the first one will be next week. She was just in the process of confirming times and dates, but the plan is to, initially anyway, is to have one on a Monday morning and probably one on a Wednesday lunchtime. Obviously Monday morning next week is bank holiday, so it probably wouldn't be happening then, but so I guess the first one will probably be next Wednesday, but we will be sending out details of that to you very shortly. No more questions have come in, so I think that's probably most of what we wanted to cover this afternoon. The main thing I want to stress really is, coming back to what I said at the beginning, is that we are the voice of Brentwood in business. And indeed, the last meeting we had with the council last Monday, we were actually asked by Chris Hossack, the leader of the council, if we could indeed give more feedback from the businesses. They were getting quite a lot of feedback from the retailers through the Brentwood Business Partnerships, but they want to hear from all the businesses in Brentwood about how we can help you and what more we can do to make life easier for you. So I'd just like to thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. I hope you've found it interesting, and hopefully you've learned a little bit from it. Indeed, you might learn a little bit more from it in terms of when we get back with some answers to the questions, all that sort of thing. The webinar will be available to view. It's been recorded as well. It was meant to be going out live by Facebook, but I think I forgot to press the button, so it didn't actually go out live on Facebook. But hopefully everyone that wanted to watch it live managed to watch it anyway. And we'll be in touch very shortly with news of the upcoming events. But as I say, just certainly dates for your diary, the first webinar with Chris Bushell next Thursday morning. And look out for your emails coming through, and obviously keep in touch with us on social media. And if you've got any other things you want to tell us about, then do send us an email, info@brentwoodchamber.co.uk. So all that remains really is for me to wish you the best of health and hope you continue to get through this difficult time. In the meantime, it's difficult to imagine actually, but I keep forgetting it's actually a 4-day bank holiday weekend coming up, which normally would be quite a, something to really look forward to, but it seems strange at this time just to sort of have a bank holiday when we're already in such different times anyway. But hopefully you've got a back garden where you can enjoy some outdoor time this weekend, and I'd like to wish you all the very best. Have a great weekend, and we'll be in touch and see you all again soon. Thank you.